Welcome to Tech and Taste. I'm Paisley.
I'm Ian.
This show is all about uncovering
The human stories behind Calgary's tech scene.
We'll share the cool innovations,
The people making it happen.
and of course, some food along the way, so that you'll leave every episode thinking,
I didn't know that was happening in Calgary.
Today, our guest is Kris Reed. He is not only the CTO, but he's also one of the co-founders of Neo Financial. He has also been involved with the Calgary tech ecosystem for over 25 years. Kris notably worked at ShareWorks, which we all know was acquired by Morgan Stanley. He went to the University of Calgary, and he has a lovely cat named Beef Beef. That's 2 beefs. Okay, guys, I think our food is here.
Awesome. Nice.
So today, we have some Italian food from Villa Firenze. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's dig in a little Italian.
Awesome. So Kris, starting a company that can rival the banks is a huge undertaking. What gave you the idea, and what gave you guys the confidence that you could pull off something that was so big?
I think the idea, just came from our own personal experience. We're all using banks, we're all using financial services. I think across Canada, it's no secret that people are paying really high fees, people aren't getting the best services. I'm sure we've all had the experience where you maybe go to the bank, the branch is only open till 3, or you're on the phone for, hours trying to get something resolved. And so it just feels like Canadians are underserved, and there's a lot of opportunity to make things better. And so that's where we came in. In terms of the confidence, it really comes down to, hey, somebody's going to fix this eventually. Why not me? Why not us? Why not what does somebody else have that we can do here in Calgary that we can build a team to do? And it's not really about confidence. I think it's just we believe that it's sort of inevitable that new companies are going to come along and actually give Canadians access to better services, and we're going to be one of those companies, and we're going to just not stop fighting and trying until we are.
And it sounds like the founding team came from a lot of existing unicorns, so you had kind of already done something that was kind of nationwide or had that experience in pulling off big things.
Yeah, my co-founders were some of the co-founders behind Skip the Dishes, which is a big national brand, and I'd started and helped lead some companies here in Calgary, and so we came together with sort of a diverse set of backgrounds, but all of us are experienced tech founders and entrepreneurs, and that definitely did give us a little extra confidence. And sometimes having relationships and a community is also really helpful for getting a company off the ground.
So should we dive into this meal? First up, we have the portobello mushroom, which is, I hear, one of their favorite dishes.
Excellent. Okay, let's try it. Right. So is this like a cream sauce on here?
Yeah. I love a portobello mushroom. You super excited?
I do too. I really like mushrooms.
This is a great one.
It's really good.
The cream sauce is really delicious.
Yeah, it's super good. I love a veggie kind of appetizer. It's nice because we have a lot of meat on the plate, so it's nice to get started with something kind of like...
Yeah, it is kind of meaty.
It's pretty meaty. It's actually a steak in mushroom form. Yeah.
I feel like even if you don't like mushrooms, this is so good and so creamy that this would be a winner.
Yes, I would agree with you.
I love mushrooms, but it's not too mushroomy.
It's not too mushroomy, but it's not too mushroomy even that's a mushroom that's this big.
Exactly.
So you've grown substantially in the last few years here, and now you're a fairly large company. Do you have any memorable stories from when you originally started the company?
Honestly, there's so many stories. I think the earlier the days, in a company, the funnier the stories. Some are probably, too crazy to share over a plate of food. I remember one time, this is random, we'd moved into our second office because we'd originally been in like a co-working space for a while, and we finally kind of leased our own little space and we were moving in. And I remember we bought our first, big screen TV. We were really excited to have this TV on the wall, use it for meetings and stuff. And then we went to move the TV into the elevator, and the elevator is too small for this TV. It won't fit in the elevator. And then we take the TV into the stairwell, and the stairwell is too small for the TV. And we're on the second floor, and there's no way to get this TV up the stairs, right? So we just make this snap decision. We're gonna get some like straps and ropes. We're gonna like wrap them around this big TV, and we're gonna get somebody to like hang out the window off the balcony, and we're gonna try and like pull this thing up outside of the building, right? So it's like the middle of the day, and we've got like software developers like hanging out a window, like just trying to pull this, and it's slipping, and we're like, no, it's gonna fall.
How many software developers does it take to move TV?
Exactly, and we did get the TV up over the balcony and into this window and into the building. It was the most unprofessional possible way to move into a building, and I'm sure if the landlord had caught us, we would have got evicted or
You
something
still
like
have
that.
the TV?
I think that TV stayed in the space. It's not coming out. Right?
Okay.
Well, that was my next question. Is how'd you get the TV out?
It's there forever now. So Kris, as the CTO, you have to deal with a lot of tech challenges. And I know that a lot of the issues that we have that you explained with the traditional banks, a lot of that comes from their antiquated technology systems. So when you were starting Neo, how did you decide what you were going to take from those learnings that the banks were doing? And how did you know what you wanted to do differently?
I think banks have a couple of different challenges. One is many of them have really old systems from the 1980s, 1990s. We're talking systems that are COBOL mainframes and things that are super outdated. They also depend on a lot of sort of third-party vendors, and so they're not really even doing the technology behind the scenes. They've sort of just outsourced it to some company that does it for them. And in either case, when they want to make a change, they kind of can't. They can't make a change to these old systems, or if the system isn't theirs, then they just get what they get, right? And the world is always changing, and there could be a crazy pandemic. There could be, interest rates are going up, interest rates are going down, the housing market's going up, the housing market's going down. And how quickly can they react to what customers actually want? And yeah, what we've seen is they can't react very fast. They have all these stumbling blocks. There's the sort of red tape of their kind of bureaucratic organizations. There's all this legacy tech. There's this dependency on all these vendors, and they just get kind of stuck. And whereas Neo, by building our own technology, by having a really lean company, we can actually go really, really fast. And it's not about, just doing tons of stuff. It's about when we've identified something customers actually want, being able to get that in their hands, and that's something I think we really excel at.
Is there a story that comes to mind of a customer request that you were able to action really quickly?
That's a good question. I think sometimes we've underestimated sort of the challenges people can have. We get really excited about like sort of the very happy path, right? Like, okay, you're going to have a credit card, you're going to go into a store, you're going to buy a cup of coffee, and you're going to get these amazing rewards, and it's going to be really exciting. Well, what about when it doesn't go well? What about when somebody steals your credit card and then they go into a store and buy some gift cards, and then you have to be on hold for 2 hours trying to resolve the issue? So I think a lot of the feedback we got from early customers was starting to learn about all of these situations customers would get into, and then we bring that into the company. Okay, we have to make this much, much easier for people. We have to make this much, much faster for people. So we would often talk to the customers. We'd often go out and even run little experiments and simulations and things, and try and take those lessons and okay, how do we actually make this more self-serve or easier to use?
So truly customer-centric design.
Exactly. And when someone calls into, let's say, our call center and they have an issue, and rather than us spending all of our time maybe trying to help our call center be 1 minute faster, we try to think about why couldn't this customer resolve this issue without even calling in? And maybe making our iOS app way better is the solution, or having something on our website is the solution. Then the customer doesn't even have to call.
Right.
And a lot of our tech efforts are spent not so much being very like reactive, like we're putting out a fire, but more trying to be proactive. Okay, how do we take sort of a traditional workflow that Canadians are used to, maybe change it in a way where there are just fewer problems? Yeah.
So it's all about the client experience then.
It is. I think Canadians are kind of used to the experience they're getting. And when we look around the world, if you look you mentioned you were traveling to Japan. If you look in Japan, or you look in South America, or you look in Europe, a lot of the experiences are just like much easier and kind of better. And Canada seems to be behind the rest of the world in terms of those experiences. So we can kind of also look globally and then bring those cool experiences back to Canada.
Are we ready to dive into pasta?
Yes, let's do it.
My favorite course. I am a pasta girl through and through.
I love carbs.
This looks really good.
What is this shape of noodle called? It's my favorite
I'm not even sure.
I don't want to guess because I'll get it wrong and someone will be really upset.
I feel like this is the most innovative shape of pasta because it's like big and then it holds onto the sauce.
It holds all the sauce. It's like a little mini lasagna noodle almost.
A tiny lasagna.
It's great.
So the short rib. Let me try a little bit of it.
What makes a rib
Is that actually? I'm not sure,
It's a good question.
but that really actually melts in your mouth. That one.
But it just kind of blends into the sauce, right?
Yeah.
You get this like great meat sauce effect.
The short rib is amazing.
It is. I like the sauce on it.
Yeah, the short rib and the sauce and the noodles kind of make a really good combination. Not really used to short rib on pasta. I wouldn't have put those two together, but definitely a good combination.
Oh, I really like this one.
It's actually mouthwatering.
So how do you decide what you want to build in-house versus what you want to go to market, to buy in terms of platforms?
It's a good question. It's kind of case by case. A lot of times we've actually maybe worked with some third party, so you just get something to market really quick, and then we look at, okay, what's working, what's not working, and then maybe reinvent it in-house. So when we first launched our credit card, we actually used a lot more vendors than we use today. Then over time, we thought, hey, we can do things better. A good example is our fraud system that prevents fraud. Initially, we had like fully vendor, fraud solution. And then we built our own fraud engine, and we actually ran both systems for a while. We had the vendor fraud system and then the neo fraud system. And it was a little competition, right? And every month we look at the results. Which system is detecting the fraud better? And after, our system initially maybe wasn't as good as the vendor solution. And then by the second month, by the third month, we start to pull ahead. By the fourth month, our system's actually way better at preventing fraud. Then 6 months later, we say, hey, we have 6 months of evidence that shows we consistently can, prevent fraud for customers better. And then we just swap to our in-house system, and now we have this amazing, internal fraud system, and we have a team behind it. Every single month, they're like tweaking it, changing the rules and updating it, running simulations. We've incorporated AI and LLM technology into that fraud engine, and we're like a mile ahead now of anything you could.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Most major banks started building their technologies in the 80s and 90s. Back then, banking software was designed to process transactions in batches. These systems prioritized stability and reconciled transactions every night. Real-time fraud detection simply wasn't an option when these systems were being developed. And as fraud became a major issue, banks started to layer these solutions on top. This means that fraud data actually gets transferred from the bank to these third-party fraud vendors. That data is then evaluated based on predefined rules and sent back to the bank. Each step happens across different systems, often owned by different companies. This creates a system that's slow to change and hard to improve. But now let's look at what happens in modern architecture. Companies like Neo now get to treat fraud detection like a real-time system. When transactions happen, they flow through a live data pipeline, where multiple systems are evaluated at once. Transaction velocity, recent behavior changes, device fingerprints, merchant type, and historical patterns across similar users. So your card is stolen, and it's used to buy gift cards. The first transaction might go through, but the system immediately detects abnormal behavior. So the system might flag different use context, different location, or a number of other different things in real time. This information flows into the fraud model in real time while the account is still active. If the fraud is confirmed, that event then becomes training data. The system records what signals matter, how quickly behavior shifted, and where detection lagged. Engineers can then retrain the model, adjust thresholds, and deploy updates without impacting the legacy systems or waiting on a number of vendors. This creates a feedback loop where real customer behavior continuously improves detection accuracy. Legacy banks struggle to keep up with the most advanced fraud detection because they have to coordinate across brittle systems that were often developed decades ago. Well, modern fintechs don't have that constraint.
So now you're creating these all in-house. Like, would you ever resell any of these?
We've been asked. We've had other financial institutions come to us and say, hey, your in-house technology looks amazing. Can you use it? It's a tough decision. I feel like, we've got this competitive advantage. Do we want to let that, out of the bag? And if everybody had access to our tech, well, maybe that we kind of lose a bit of that advantage we have over others. But also, I don't think that we want to get distracted here. Like, the mission of Neo is get Canadians access to better financial services, help Canadians get ahead. And if we change the mission and we're suddenly like, let's help some bank that's already making $1 billion in profit have an easier time with their IT, like, that's not accomplishing the Neo mission, right? We would get really distracted because we could make money selling that technology. So the mission is kind of keeping us, I guess, focused, and we turn down like offers to sell our tech or buy our tech all the time. Maybe one day we'll get to the point where we spin off a little company or something and it can sell some of the tech. But for now, it's like every single person who joins Neo is, there for the mission of helping Canadians.
Oh, nice.
Amazing. That's so
That's great.
important. And I have a social enterprise as well. And I definitely know that temptation to kind of look off of the path that you set for yourself, because you can chase all of these shiny pennies and you can chase revenue in different ways. And it's so important to just stick to your mandate, especially when that's helping people. And it's such an important mandate that you guys have.
Yeah, exactly. And, you're sort of selling out your future if you take those, side quests and those little opportunities. Eventually you look back 10 years later and you realize you never reach your goal. So.
The video game metaphor, you wouldn't win the game, but you'd kind of have fun in all the side quests.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sometimes, I also think about those opportunities as a bit of a, hey, if we ever needed, another source of revenue, or we ever needed some extra security, we also have like a fallback plan because that tech is so amazing and there's so much demand for it. So it's still really valuable, and it's something we can keep kind of in our back pocket. But we're all about that mission and getting our brand out there and getting better products in people's hands.
Totally. Oh, 100% agree on that one. It's hard to eliminate all the distractions.
Yeah, exactly. The more, your company grows, the more the distractions grow.
Yeah.
And speaking of distractions, I am a little bit distracted by this veal on our plates. Should we dive into our main course?
Yes, let's try it.
Great.
That looks really good.
So this is actually veal that is wrapped in capiacula, which I think that's the sausage on there, and provolone.
I'm gonna try a little bit of the vegetable as well here.
Veal is really good. They kind of like some veal, and you get some of that sausage flavor too.
Yeah, and I like the breading. As long as it's kind of the perfect amount of breading.
Yeah, it's a really unique dish. So the provolone at the center, you kind of get that at the very end. So it kind of rounds out the bite super nicely. But yeah, the sausage really hits your tongue first. You get that kind of like peppery feel, and you can have a little bit of the veal, and then that provolone at the end.
Which is really good. I can actually eat the peppercorns in this.
Yeah, a super unique bite. This is a really interesting dish.
It is my favorite dish so far.
So what has been the hardest technical challenge that you had to solve that you never expected to actually have to solve?
It's a good question. I think when we started the company, because we had this idea of getting better financial services for every single person in Canada, and we wanted to launch all these different services, and we have savings accounts and mortgages and credit cards. I thought like scale would be the hardest problem. How do we scale this up? We're going to need these like high performance, high scale systems. But actually that part was way easier than I thought. And I think because we're such a new company, we get to leverage the power of all these cloud-based services now, right? So it's actually like Amazon, AWS, and the underlying infrastructure they provide that has to scale, and everything on there is like infinite scale now. So scaling became really easy. Things that we actually spend more time on, things like cybersecurity, right? No matter what you get from Amazon, no matter what you maybe download or whatever software you buy, like you still have a ton of work to get it set up correctly, and you're constantly being attacked by cyber criminals. And there's sort of this never-ending fight that you have to go through to like keep your system safe, to keep your customers safe. And so we spend a lot of time on cybersecurity, maybe more than I thought we'd have to spend, and less time on things like scaling up.
And I've been hearing a lot about quantum lately, and I know that's a little bit further in the future, but are you guys already kind of looking at what that looks like in a quantum world?
Absolutely. There's things like, the post-quantum cryptography algorithms, right? There's this idea that once the quantum computers get better, they're going to be able to break encryption. We encrypt like tons of very sensitive information at Neo, and so we don't want that encryption ever to get broken. So we are looking at things like, okay, how will we need to evolve? When will we need to evolve? Luckily, again, some of that will come from some of the cloud providers, right? So, Amazon actually has like great cryptographic tools and even quantum tools now. So you can, just use Amazon AWS, and as long as you're staying abreast of what they're actually offering. We go to their reInvent conference and stuff like that, and then bring that information back and make sure that we're always adopting the latest cryptography service on AWS, or the very latest again, maybe they have like a quantum testing platform. We're not really using it yet, but we're starting to do some of the research into what types of things can we test on that quantum computing platform. And yeah, I feel like we're going to be more than ready for that kind of quantum change. But I also think, like, in the news, everybody's like, quantum is so cool, but the quantum computers are still not
Yeah, they're
that
not
good.
there yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting kind of future topic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kris. That was amazing. So now it's time for us to rate the food.
Is there a scale out of 10?
It's a scale out of 10. You can rate it as a plate. You can rate it individually.
I would give the Villa 10. Maybe everything 9.5. It's really good.
It was so good.
It was really good. Yeah, I would give everything at least a 9.
Yeah.
Sucking everything here.
Yeah, I would give the portobello mushroom and the veal. No, it's all a 10. This was a really amazing meal.
10 out of 10 plate.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 plate. Thank you so much, Villa Firenze.
Thank you to Neo Financial for partnering with us to showcase some of the amazing local food merchants in their network. Neo has partnered with over 10,000 businesses across Canada to bring cardholders exclusive cashback offers with rewards of up to 15% cashback just for supporting local.
Thank you so much to Dot Digital, our presenting sponsor, for making Tech and Taste happen. Dot is a Calgary-based digital consultancy that helps companies bring their ideas to life through technology. We are so thankful for their support for bringing these conversations to the screen.
Thank you so much to our food partner for today, the Nash.